guys. So this week you'll be doing some analysis of written arguments, arguments that are in the book. You're reading two essays, and what you'll be doing is going through each essay and summarizing each one in a separate paragraph in the discussion forum. So one paragraph of summary for each essay, and then you'll be analyzing each essay in the discussion forum as well. So you'll be writing 4 paragraphs total, a little more than I've had you write in the past, but we're getting toward the end of the quarter here. So what you'll be doing is reading these 2 essays. I'd recommend that you first read them a couple of times. Read them 2-3 times. Make sure you really understand not only what they're saying, but how they're saying it. Try to take note as you're reading, not just of the information they present, but of the form that it's presented in. And try to consider what strategies each author is using to make their point, how they're attempting to persuade us of stuff, and what perspective they're offering and how they're attempting to kind of convince us of that perspective. So are they appealing to our sense of reasonableness and fairness? Are they appealing to our emotions? Are they trying to make us laugh? Are they trying to make us cry? Are they drawing on the authority of a lot of experts and citing a ton of sources? So what are they doing in order to make their case? And then evaluate the argument, not the topic. This is hard to do sometimes if you're reading about a topic that you feel strongly about, and some of you have discovered this in the writing that you've been doing this quarter. For instance, in analyzing the visual arguments that we've analyzed recently, I've noticed that for a lot of us it's difficult to separate ourselves from subjects that we feel strongly about in order to evaluate arguments and not just offer opinions about topics. So let's say, for instance, that I'm reading an essay that's about puppy mills or something, and I have strong feelings about puppy mills. It could be that the argument that's being presented in the essay is pro puppy mill and I'm anti puppy mill. I can still appreciate the argument and decide whether it works or not as an argument, even if I don't agree with the author's opinion. So it's tricky to do this. It's a difficult exercise to evaluate an argument while not getting so stuck on what your opinion is about the topic. We can all have our opinions about various topics, such as puppy mills. Don't know why I thought of that, it just popped into my head. However, even if we still all have opinions about topics, and even if we have strong feelings about a topic that is being written about in an argument, we can still analyze the argument separate from our opinions about the topic. So let's say I'm reading this argument that's pro puppy mill and I'm anti puppy mill. I can still appreciate the logic the author is using. I can appreciate the way he or she is trying to convince me that puppy mills are amazing and we should all buy dogs that are produced in them, or whatever the word is, raised in them, created in them, whatever the word would be for how a puppy is brought into being. Anyway, no, I'm just being silly. I can appreciate the strategy the author is using, even if I kind of have a different opinion and I think like puppy mills are disgusting and I totally disagree with their existence and I think that they're wrong or something. I can still appreciate the argument the author is making, or I can criticize the author's argument without necessarily getting so stuck on my opinions about the topic. So this is kind of an exercise in restraint. And some things you can do to try to distance yourself from your opinion of the topic and make sure you're sticking to rhetorical analysis of the argument is to consider, first of all, how is the argument structured? So is the thesis at the beginning or the end? At what point is the evidence presented, if evidence is presented? Kind of what happens first, next, and last, basically. So what's the structure of the argument? How would you describe what you see there? How does the author appeal to logos, pathos, and ethos? So is the author being logical? Is the author using reason and evidence for all claims? Is the author trying to make us laugh or cry or feel things or get emotionally involved in the argument somehow? Is the author appealing to our sense of, is the author using ethical appeals, basically, by kind of seeming trustworthy and relying on trustworthy sources and citing them and sort of establishing that, trying to establish that trust between author and audience? Is the writer guilty of any fallacies? Are there flaws in the writer's reasoning? Is the writer misusing logos, pathos, or ethos? So you don't have to just stick to what the author is doing well. Are there things that aren't working so well? Are there things about the structure of the argument that don't work so well? Are there things that seem to be in the wrong order or that would work better a different way? And then ultimately, is the argument convincing? It's completely possible to find an argument convincing and to still have a different opinion from the author. So I could find an argument about why puppy mills are amazing to be a convincing argument and still think puppy mills are disgusting. That might not seem logical to you guys, but it's possible to think that the form of an argument, excuse me, getting over a cold, the form of an argument works well without necessarily agreeing with the argument itself, or without necessarily agreeing with the author's opinion. So try to be objective if you can. Put your feelings about the topic aside. Don't get stuck on writing about your feelings about the topic, and instead focus on analyzing the argument. If you have questions about this as you're working on it, if there are things I can help you with, please, as always, get in touch.